Right. Apologies all, not sure what cut us off. Apologies all, not sure what cut us off, but we are all coming back online now with our attendees as well.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think this is perhaps take 2 of the start of our webinar panelists today. It's great to be so far into 2020 and it just keeps going, and the technology, despite our best efforts, is always a challenge. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We have a distinguished panel of guests, and we are celebrating Veterans Day, Veterans Weekend here at Habitat for Humanity. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to not only get out in the community and do some hands-on work to help those in need, but also spend a little bit of time with people who are on a different front line in helping veterans and helping us in our charge to ensure that everyone has a decent place to live, including veterans, including seniors, including low to moderate income people in our community. So I first want to introduce our panel today. And I'll just go from the top corner in my screen. So we have Habitat Homeowner and Pottstown Community Action Group organizer, Tamara Charles. From Santander Bank, we have Mr. Toby Singh, who is Vice President and Senior Associate of Community Partnerships with the bank. Thank you for being here. We have the esteemed Congressman Mary Gay Scanlon, and we are happy to have you here and representing us. We have Mr. Harry Singer, who is a beloved individual here at Habitat. He serves as a coach for us. He's also, I believe, a Navy vet, and he'll be sharing about our program and what we're doing here at Habitat. Mr. Thom Starke, who is on the board at Heroic Gardens and is a partner of Habitat as well, and a veteran. So he brings a unique perspective to this conversation. From the Montgomery County Veterans Affairs organization, we have Director Denis Miller joining us. And that rounds out everybody that I have on my attendance list here today. And I think we want to kick off with sort of a state of veterans housing today. And there's no better person that has their finger on the pulse of what's happening legislatively there than Congressman Scanlon. So if you could kick us off with just kind of an overview of how things are really, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for having me here today to discuss veterans housing. You know, my dad served in the Marines twice. Once as a teenager at the end of World War II, and then again in Korea. And then my sister served in the Army, as did both grandfathers, most of my uncles and aunts and other assorted relatives. So got a lot of deep personal respect for the service and sacrifices of our service members and our veterans. And that family commitment to public service is one of the reasons why I serve in Congress today. But my knowledge of the issues that veterans face is also based upon years of work with legal aid agencies here in southeastern Pennsylvania and around the country to help get more services and to represent veterans. So I've worked to secure disability and veterans benefits, upgrade discharge ratings, enforce laws that protect service members from suit, fighting the VA for medically necessary care, and providing services to homeless veterans. And also in that role, I used to be pro bono counsel for a national law firm. I've worked with local and national Habitat for Humanity groups on everything from permitting to land acquisition to policy work so that Habitat affiliates could access TARP funds in the wake of the 2008-2009 recession, to even representing Habitat in mortgage foreclosure proceedings when bad actors tried to take advantage of the program and defraud the program. So, you know, from all of that experience, I know that veterans experience a distinct set of challenges, both during their service and upon their return home, that put them at extra risk for housing insecurity, whether it's, you know, higher rates of PTSD, traumatic brain injury, other forms of trauma. So we know that access to affordable housing is, to help reduce housing cost burden, is even more of an issue for veterans than for many other members in our constituent base. So whatever those causes, Congress is working with the Department of Veterans Affairs to support lower income veterans and offer services critical to reducing homelessness. So I've been really proud to co-sponsor legislation to address these issues. And we're seeing a good amount of bipartisan support for these kinds of things, because we have, I believe at this point now, we have more veterans serving in Congress than in decades, really, since the aftermath of World War II. So it's good. We have a lot of folks who are in the mix who understand the issue. And it's one of the areas where we're still able to get some bipartisan support in Congress, you know, when there's conflict in many other areas. So there have been efforts to pass bills that work on, I'm trying to pull up my list here. I mean, the Homeless Veterans Families Act, which provides continuous transitional housing and employment assistance. Generally, there's money in the Build Back Better Act that we're trying to move forward this coming week. There's $2.3 billion for physical Veterans Administration infrastructure, more for VA property leases, medical clinic leases, workforce training. And one that I think is really important, there's money in there for record modernization, which I know has been a huge hang up for so many of the things we work on, getting people's service records out of the National Archives or whatever, you know, university they've dumped them in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, there's a lot of work going on in that region, but I'm really, really looking forward to hearing from this group where you think we need to do more so that we can push on those things. I'm trying to sign on to the bills as they come up, but it's really helpful when groups like this can point us towards legislation that you see moving, or that, you know, you think is worthwhile to move forward as we go forward. We are at a moment in time where, because of the Build Back Better agenda, there's going to be a lot more money in the pipeline than there has been in well, actually already with the infrastructure bill. It's the largest infrastructure bill in our nation's history, but we are very hopeful to pass additional money through to address more of the housing needs, including for veterans housing, and then these other issues. As I said, I also come to this from the legal aid perspective. I'm co-chair of the Legal Aid Caucus in Congress, and you know, it's no use having these benefits available if people can't get access to them. So really trying to push to make sure that we have better access to legal aid generally. And we've worked on issues like making sure that our states and local governments understood that legal aid could be part of what they spent eviction diversion funding on. Philadelphia, for example, has had a very successful mortgage and rental eviction diversion program. And we want to make sure that people know that, you know, helping people get access to that money is part of what the money can be used for. I've also got a bill that's moving forward that would provide more money for medical legal clinics, because we know that one of the big issues with our veterans is reaching them. They are, for a variety of reasons, distrustful of folks who aren't in their loop. And so going to where the veterans are and you know, providing them with services in a place where they're comfortable and trust the services is important. So we're looking to expand the number of medical legal clinics at VAs and other places that veterans already get medical care in order to get better access to them. So I'm really here in a lot of ways to learn from you, to hear what you think we need to be doing more. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Sure. Well, that was a lot, and there's definitely a lot of hope with some of this new legislation that's passed, and I'm sure that you'll help us direct as much of that money to our community as we can. I wanted to move to Mr. Miller from the Veterans Affairs. I think your camera's off right now. I'm wondering if you're still with us. But I wanted to move and get sort of a local perspective of what's happening here in Montgomery County with regard to services in the state of the state with Veterans Affairs and things that are available here. Oh, you're muted, hon.
Yeah, I'm right here. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, the homeless problem in Montgomery County, in my limited experience, understand that I don't have 100% visibility on everything, but I think there's a couple of things that it's good to start out with. Number one is that veterans are different and it runs the gamut of experience, but I would say overall that they are a disadvantaged population. Not because of their experiences, or just for the fact that they don't have the same kind of, I'll say, leg up as non-veterans, because they leave their home for several years while all of their classmates, for a better term, are developing their careers. And then they come back and they're a little late when it comes to that. For homelessness in Montgomery County, a lot of the people that we see have other than honorable discharges, which is a crying shame. A lot of times, in my experience, their other than honorable discharges are a result of them self-medicating for PTSD or for pain musculoskeletal issues. So, and with those other than honorable discharges, they don't have access to VA benefits. They're still veterans, but they're completely blocked from getting most of those benefits, especially homeless benefits. The other part of the population for homeless veterans are simply older people who fail to plan financially. That's really it. And they end up living in their homes, which are not fit for human occupation. They live in their car. We have a fair amount of street homeless in Montgomery County. We have a lot of homeless veterans that are living in their car or living in a place without heat or without electricity. So you don't see it. You think they live there, but maybe they're squatting. If you interestingly, in Montgomery County, it's both urban, like Pottstown, Lansdale, Norristown, and it's rural too, like Zieglerville and things like that. If you're driving down a country road, to go look at the fall colors or something, you may see a house and you'll see a generator outside with a bunch of big gas cans. Those people don't own that house. They're squatters, and they have certain rights, thank goodness. But it's homelessness is not like you see in the movies, and it's not the person that's at the traffic light or at a transportation center, looking for handouts or for help. It's a complicated community problem, and the only solution is to respond to a community-based solution with all hands. But that's those are my experiences. I hope I shed light on it. If there's any questions, I'll catch it in the Q&A.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really a good reminder that the issues of homelessness and who is and how and what we can do about it. It's something that is front of mind with our programs here at Habitat. I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit, kind of tagging off that. Mr. Singer, would you happen to give an overview of the things that Habitat's doing in order to combat this and address the population that Mr. Miller describes?
Yeah, sure. So Habitat for Humanity, I think most people at least understand about the home ownership program, where the prospective homeowner would put in something like 200 hours of sweat equity and work on a property and actually be able to get a reduced rate mortgage and low cost of entry as far as down payments, things like that, so they can move in and actually get into a home, a nice home that's been rehabbed, that they have some skin in the game. And that has been Habitat's sort of program that they're most known for, in support of of that, the Montco Delco organization has put together financial literacy programs, a financial literacy program called Almost Home. The Almost Home program goes for, I want to say, 8 weeks, meets twice a week, and for at least an hour, often two, that help raise the financial literacy and understanding of prospective homeowners. So it's not necessarily veterans directed, but certainly available to those people who are interested, those veterans who are interested in the Habitat program. It's something that honestly, the material that's going over will benefit everybody. We all spend too much money on credit cards, for example, or we have loans that we're not paying back the right way, and things like that. There's a lot of good process here. We talked about some veterans being somewhat disadvantaged, right? They move out of their home, they travel the world, they're not building a civilian career while they're out there. But there are a lot of advantages that the military does provide. I know when I got out of my 4 years in the Navy, I was a lot more organized when I got out. I grew up a lot. It helped me quite a bit. And I think the veterans as a group share some of that. They're just a little bit more on the ball. They are more situationally aware. They plan a little bit better. They know what it means to work hard and achieve a mission and get the job done. And when we look at something like the home ownership program with Habitat for Humanity, it's like that. I mean, you have an opportunity for a house, you put in your time, you do your planning and your upfront work, learn about financial resources that are available to you and things that you need to do and behavior changes for you to put you in a place where you can save up the money and get yourself into a home. And it's a great program, the home ownership program, as well as our Almost Home financial literacy program. So I recommend everyone, especially, this is going to sound a little silly, but I'm not sure this is the right market, but the financial literacy, that everyone should have had this training in high school. You shouldn't be allowed to graduate high school without learning to, manage your money, manage your debt, what kind of savings accounts, what kind of investments you should be doing. It's a program that's for everyone. And it really does help people stage themselves and be in the right place when a home ownership opportunity comes down the pike, because you have to be ready for it. And there's a lot of upfront work that we help people get on board with when it comes to getting a home, either through Habitat for Humanity or on their own. And we have a lot of partners that help us with that. I know Toby's one of them. So thanks to all those guys. But anyway, I think that's sort of a quick overview of the home ownership program and our Almost Home financial training, seminar.
Right. And we have an example with us. Tamara Charles is not only a Habitat homeowner and organizer of the neighborhood revitalization program that's in the Pottstown community, but she is also a vet from the Army National Guard, 18 years. So yeah. Congratulations and thank you for your service, Tamara. Could you maybe give us a little bit of that perspective from someone who's been through and you've had firsthand the challenges of coming out of the military and getting into home ownership and partnering with us? I think, anything you want to share with it?
I'd like to expand on what Denis Miller and Harry Singer had said about your time in the service. No matter if your experience was good or bad, it really, your priorities are your service, and it really could set you back when you get out of the service. You're not at the same level as everyone else who did not postpone their education or careers. And I have a perspective as a younger veteran with the most recent war, Iraq and Afghanistan. I work in a state nursing home for veterans, and most of them had spent their time in the service maybe 4 to 8 years, but the younger veterans, a lot of us have spent our time in service 10 or more years because how long the war was. and even the part-time National Guard and reservists, it was never really part-time. So it really affects your whole life, and your priorities are totally different than people that were not in the service. So from that perspective, it does change your life a lot. I had gone through the Almost Home program, and thank you for being a volunteer for that, Harry. We really appreciate those financial coaches. And so I'm also a Habitat homeowner, and my experience has been awesome with Habitat. And I always like to share their perspective that the way Habitat treats its volunteers and its homeowners, as being a veteran, it gives us something that veterans are in need of, because we still want to continue to serve when we get out of the service. So Habitat does that for their volunteers. So.
Thank you. I also, just a commercial, we're building 4 homes in the future. So 2 projects from now in Lansdowne. And we are reserving, we're doing 4 homes and reserving 2 of those units specifically for veterans. So we've, it's part of the funding model there to help veterans in that community have access to those houses. And they're going to be beautiful on Dudley Avenue there. So I wanted to also bring our partnerships, because we have some incredible programs. We work with incredible people, but our partnerships is what really rounds out the experience for Habitat and how we're able to expand our impact in the community. And Mr. Starke, Thom Starke from Heroic Gardens, it's a partnership that started with us during the pandemic. We found each other because we had moved all of our repair operation to exterior repairs, and who better to work with than a group that is so into the gardens and the exteriors of houses. So it really worked out. But Thom, if you could talk a little bit about that organization, what you do, and how you serve veterans in our community, that'd be wonderful.
So we really appreciate you having us on. It's a really great opportunity. And I, for one, have had several experiences with Habitat and partnerships, yesterday, for example, up in Pottstown. But so Heroic Gardens was founded in 2018, and it's basically a veteran service organization that is primary mission is to connect veterans with gardening and nature. Studies have shown that people who get out of nature, gardening, get their hands dirty, people with challenges, PTSD, or any kind of challenges that they have, it's a proven medical fact, and studies will show that it's a benefit to individuals to participate in those kinds of activities. So, we provide services where we'll go into veterans' homes, outside their homes, transform their gardens or their yards into places of, sort of peace and just a good, where they feel good about being there. So we cover our organizations, we're based out of Jenkintown, but we cover the whole Delaware Valley, Philadelphia, surrounding suburbs, South Jersey, Delaware, in Newcastle County. It's a 100% volunteer organization, and all activities that we provide and do are free to the veterans. We are not a kind of a one and done kind of organization. We go in, and it's not like we go and build and we leave. We'll go back and help the veterans over the years to replant their gardens or cultivate the items that they have, or continue to educate them on how they could benefit most from being out in their gardens and nature. And, we recently got awarded a grant from the PA Veterans Foundation for our Mission Windowsill program. So in addition to doing things outside of the home, where we, help the homeowner, uncover and beautify their yards and their surroundings, we have therapeutic horticulture classes. So we call that Mission Windowsill, and that kind of was pandemic generated. It basically, we do it in person, we do it virtual, and we have it led by a registered or certified horticultural therapist, and programs typically last 5 to 10 weeks on an individual basis. And we kind of have the veterans help them realize, hey, if you got a windowsill, you can grow something. And in a place like Pandemic or homebound veterans or people like that who can leave their house or don't have a yard to work on or find a place like that. We have programs and we work with the VMC. We're working with the Philadelphia VA. We just recently started working with the Pittsburgh VA with these programs and some of the veterans transitional housing programs like Edison 64 and Haven in Philadelphia. So we do things like that. So people who don't want to leave their house or can't leave their house for any reason can participate in the program, benefit from the beauty of nature. We do have something, and this is where my shirt comes in. It's something we call forest bathing. It basically gets people out, sort of a 1 hour guided meditation. We walk through nature and different places. We leave your cell phones, the technology in the car, and you immerse yourself in nature and just walk through and sort of, I call it getting out of my own head. It gives you a chance to just sort of relax and absorb the things and the sounds and things around you. And it's really it's something new to us, and we've done a couple of them, been very successful. We do this across the region at local parks. We were at Valley Forge a couple of weeks ago. We were at Curtis Arboretum last month. So we do things like that. So it's another program that, again, it's all free to anybody who wants to participate. And then one of the other things that we've been doing is we're working with local communities or municipalities and War Memorial Park, sort of beautification assistance, gardening and things like that. So it's not just specific to an individual veteran, it benefits the entire community. And we've had participation from the folks who live in those areas to help beautify that. So, keeping those clean, and that's an ongoing thing. So that's something it's really, we're getting really good sort of feedback on it. And because we've done a couple of them, we're getting a lot more requests to do them, which is nice. So if you don't have a specific place or know anybody that has a need for beautification or something of the yard or whatever, we can help the community as well. We've done a local BFW, for example, in New Jersey to help them beautify their place, to help sort of gain the support from the community and the veteran community to become members of that organization so it continues to flourish and doesn't go away. So those are some of the things that we do locally to help veterans in their community. And it's important, I think, partnership with an organization like Habitat for Humanity, because there are lots of projects that they do to rebuild, refit, or refurbish homes. And then what happens with the outside? Can the individual veteran or person that lives in that home gain further enjoyment and peace by just the renovation of their home, or can we expand that further and create something that makes it a peaceful and beautiful place for them? And that's kind of what we do at Heroic Gardens. I've lost my sound here.
Oh, no, it's me. I was muted. I was just
Okay.
jumping on in the chat. We have one of your fans letting us know that you also did a rain garden at the new veterans home. So, as you were, I think people listening in were checking off, making sure what they were working on is it was mentioned. So
Yeah, that's great. Well,
this
thank
is
you.
an incredible amount of work happening with Heroic Gardens, and addressing and using nature as a therapy, I think, is fantastic. And we live in such a beautiful area. There's a lot of opportunity to get out there and do that. And there is support. So I also saw in the chat, Mr. Miller, you are indeed also a veteran. And you were feeling, I don't mean to make you feel left out. I want you to tell us a little bit about your service, and or just that which service branch you were in. And then I'd love to shoot over to Toby so he can tell us about what the business community is up against. So
I was lucky enough to be in the Coast Guard for 24 years. I started out as a seaman, E3, and I left as a commander, 05. And after I retired, I worked in the maritime industry for a few years, and it was horrible. It was horrible. It was all about making money. Who knew business was like that? And I was glad to get into the social work and the things that I'm doing now. And I try to give a mindset for people, because providers, after a while, after a few hundred clients, they get numb. And I try to let them know, like, when someone's asking for help, you need to look at it like the SAR alarm, which is a search and rescue alarm. You need to imagine that for them, that bell is ringing. Part of homelessness is all the other stuff that comes with it. because veterans are proud, and we make them proud. Honor, respect, and devotion to duty are the core values of the Coast Guard. And we make them proud. And the veterans on this call, you all know that. That's how we operate. And as a result, it's hard to ask for help. And by the time that they become homeless, they have these tangled lives with all these other problems where it's housing first, and that's good. But after that, they have a whole bunch of other problems. And what I like about Habitat for Humanity and how they help people is that they're able oftentimes to have the people stay in their home. So as a homeowner, I got to tell you, a house is like a decaying body. It is falling apart all the time. And every 5 to 10 years, I got to make some kind of a capital improvement. And Harry knows this, is that for those financially restricted homeowners, they can't make those capital improvements. So you buy a house in your 30s, and by the time that you're in your 50s, you need a roof. And then you don't get that roof because you can't. And then you're at 60 and you still need that roof. And then at 70, there is no roof. I think one of the clients that you have in Lansdale has that same kind of situation. It's just not a roof anymore. You know, it's 4 times the projected age of it, and it's sad. And Habitat for Humanity oftentimes keeps them in their home when they can, because the homeless veterans that are living in their car, and I want you to try this. You have a car. Let's say you have a car and you're on the call. I want you to look around your house and I want you to say, okay, I'm going to keep everything that I could fit in my car, in the trunk or in the back seat or something like that. Everything else is gone. Okay, here, I'll use an Italian-American expression. It's gone. You don't have it anymore. Okay, and that's what it's like for these homeless people that are living in a car. They've lost everything. But what I like about with Habitat is with their home improvement projects, they could keep it in their house. They could keep it their stuff, which is it's a great sentimental value to them. And I don't know. I just think it's good work. But yeah, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share a little bit about my veteran experience.
Absolutely. And I think all of that really rolls into, Habitat can't do this on our own. And we do have a lot of really fantastic corporate partners. And Santander Bank has been alongside of us. Little background, Santander started when our Almost Home program began. Santander Bank gave us the seed money to start the program and hire our first coordinator. So that financial literacy program that we've been talking about that has been growing since, for the last 5-6 years, started out with a promise from Santander Bank to help us get this started, to see that need in the community. So I'm happy to say, Toby, we kept it going. It's expanded. It's great. We've got great people like Harry involved with it now. But I know that your bank has a lot of options for our veteran community. And I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk us through a little bit about what those things are.
Yeah, great, Rebecca. Thank you so much. And really, thank you so much for having me. I really feel honored to be part of this distinguished panel. Again, I'm Toby. I am a community partnership manager with Santander Bank. So I am part of the corporate social responsibility arm of the bank, which is really around engaging in our community and giving back. While I personally did not serve, certainly have some in my family, including my uncle and grandfather. And I just think about the opportunities that when my grandfather got out of World War II and was able to establish home ownership for himself. And that was the same family home that I got to grow up in and attend school and build my education out of, how it really created opportunity and gave me the opportunity to be where I am today. And to piggyback a little bit off of sort of at the top, it's not just honoring veterans today and for the week, it really needs to be year round. And while I am quite proud of some of the things that our bank and great partnerships like Habitat we've done in the past and continue to do, I'm really glad for the resources that are coming together, because it's always an ongoing battle struggle. So having, Congresswoman Scanlon from the government side, nonprofits, private sector, really everyone kind of chipping in is something that we have to continue to do, because new challenges arise, whether it was the pandemic, whether it's something that changes, and we all continuously have to ready to respond accordingly. For Santander as a bank, and for those that aren't familiar with the brand, we have a background, sovereign bank. You may have recognized us before, certainly a long-standing history in Pennsylvania, deep roots in Reading and across the entire state. For us, when it comes to our work, we are really geared towards making sure that we're stepping up with what we know best. And when we think about the financial services industry, that means one, financial literacy. So whether it was supporting programs like Almost Home, providing our own programs and services going forward, but also in particularly the lending side of things is really an area where we have to make sure that we are doing our part. I'd say almost everything that all the challenges that an individual may face often starts with housing, and having a good, safe, affordable place to call home is crucial for everyone to be successful. So whether that might mean we're tackling homelessness and providing, working with organizations that are addressing homelessness issues, transitional housing, affordable rental units for those that are looking for the rental housing, or very importantly, the wealth building opportunity that homeownership creates, Santander really works hard to make sure that our partnerships are addressing all those different avenues that fall under the housing sort of, umbrella. When I think about particularly our service members, housing, again, so important, whether, currently deployed, still have to have a place to call home. And importantly, though, you need to make sure that your family members are not worried about, are they going to pay the rent, where are they going to live, have to move while they're deployed abroad. When coming back, and I really think, Mr. Miller, hit home to it, where if you had to fall behind or you're dealing with challenges and now you're coming back and trying to reestablish and keep up with some of your classmates, we have to make sure that we're creating those same opportunities for you to get housing that you might have missed out on that opportunity to save or saw things in the past. And so as a bank, when we work to support home ownership or housing groups like Habitat come really right to the top because of all of these different programs and services that we're able to bring to the table. As a bank, it's not just about the individuals or the philanthropic support. We really make sure that it's our products that, again, are there as well. And so much of what we do in corporate social responsibility is really around supporting both underserved, people will say, disadvantaged, and I like to use differently advantaged, right, as a word. We're always different initiatives. And one of the things, you might have a focus on single mothers, our Black and brown communities, immigrant communities, right, race, ethnicity, so many different things. One common theme, intersectionality between all of those, our veterans are often falling in every single one of those buckets. So when we talk about different initiatives that we're going to form, very often you will see special carve-outs in our partnerships that might be for veterans. If we're going to make a support of creating new affordable rental units, we love it when a nonprofit is saying, we're going to have this carve-out just for veterans. When we've helped fund down payment or closing cost assistance programs that can help an individual get into a home, we love it when that bucket of funds has a carve-out just for our veterans. And with those programs, and like the down payment assistance will allow me to segue further into that product side, we're really big on making sure that we have a full suite of products, because although there's that common theme for veterans, every single vet themselves is going to have a different circumstance. And although I think it's very common for a veteran to come in really wanting to come with that product that's as part of that circle, right? Everyone's like, what are those VA loan options? And it was important to us to have as a foundation that we did offer the VA loan. We also made sure that we, again, had a full suite of products. So depending on neighborhoods that they're living in, depending on their individual income situation, we can offer them a lot more. And I think that's what I want someone to walk away with. Ideally, it would be great if you bank with Santander, you come and we help make you the homeowner, but it's not about banking or coming to us. No matter what lender you go with, if you're going to go search for home ownership, one, I want you to find a loan or a lender that does offer the VA loan, because that's a very important product that they should be giving you a scenario on. But we need to educate our veterans to make informed decisions as well. and giving them at least 2, 3 other options, depending on their individual situation that they may qualify for. And that's something that at Santander we're proud to do.
Oh, I'm just fired up because I myself am a VA loan holder. My husband was the veteran in our family. He had, I believe, 26 years as Army reservist. So he spent some time in Fallujah and in these other wars. So I got to stay home with all the little babies at that time. But I think this point in the conversation, it's been so awesome to see what programs are out there, how we can participate, what options are out there for financing, what we have here at Habitat. But I wanted to call in Congressman Scanlon just to tell us a little bit about how do veterans get information from your office about the programs or offerings that you guys have.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate it. We do have a staffer, Vandeth Ali, who's dedicated to veterans issues and handles a lot of issues. If we have veterans who have issues with any federal agencies, they should contact, and they live in PA5, they should contact our office, and they can do that 2 ways. One is to just call 610-626-2020. And the other way is on our official website, which is scanlon.house.gov. There's a way to submit an email with a question. So generally what happens is we have to get a privacy release so that we can contact whatever the agency is, whether it's Social Security, the Veterans Administration, or something else on behalf of the veteran. So we do a lot of work in this area, and we know that things can get stuck sometimes in federal agencies. So we can follow up and try to get them unstuck. But absolutely, that's a big part of the job that we're doing. Also, I was interested in what Toby was saying with respect to these partnerships, because we're seeing more and more of that in the region with government and nonprofits and private businesses getting together to create these partnerships to fix some of the issues that we're talking about. So for example, Rotary out in Delaware County is now partnering with the Chester Housing Authority to help train Chester residents to work in building homes. So they practice on some of the housing authority buildings, and then they can go get jobs in that area. I would love to, if you're working on any of those kinds of partnerships, would love to help promote them, because we're seeing that these are a really effective way to get people together who are doing great things. And sometimes it's just trying to identify the right people to form those partnerships with. So happy to help out if we can there. Thank you.
Yes, and I see that we have Vandeep from your office has put into the chat some contact information. So we're going to go ahead and actually add that to our website, I think, in a follow-up email for this webinar for those that registered, if we can share that way. I think that's a great way to get that out. So circling back, this has been a great conversation. I'm being mindful of the time. We have about 15 more minutes, but I wanted to just get a perspective from Mr. Miller about what we can expect from the future, or how we've talked a lot about the different products and banks, programs that we have, et cetera. Given your finger on the pulse of the scope of the issue that we have, are we doing enough? What else should we be doing? What are the gaps that you see, and how can we better serve this underserved community?
There was an article in the Inquirer about homelessness in Norristown just a few days ago. I don't have a date for it, but I can tell you it's a good article and it's a bad article. So go read the article, and then just remember this: is that highlighting disparities or sowing the seeds of discontent is not the right way to foster collaboration. Just if I could be critical of it. I'm glad that we had the article. I'm glad it's going to raise visibility, but sowing the seeds of discontent is not going to lead to collaboration. Homelessness, like I said before, is a community. It's an all total community problem for everyone, for the people that are homeless, for the relatives, for everyone else that is affected by it. I I worry about the future as our homeless population is aging. The average age of a veteran in Pennsylvania is 65 years of age. We are coming up on what we call the peacetime veterans, or the tweeners, whatever you want to call them. But they're the people that served during the Cold War. They do not have access to a lot of the same benefits that wartime veterans have. So this would be people who served between 1975 and 1990. So we have this big population coming up, and they're not going to have the same access to services for pensions or for homeless services. So it's I'm not trying to be apocalyptic and say there's a wave coming, because that is also sowing the seeds of discontent, and I don't want to be like that. But I think that it's time for a little bit of out of the box thinking. There's an organization. I'm going to tell you about two organizations just for it's what is it? Veterans Outreach of Pennsylvania.org. And they have this idea in Harrisburg. They've been working on it for a few years, where they use tiny homes to house veterans. And it's actually a campus. So they have these tiny homes. And if you look at these tiny homes and they have graphics of it, you would immediately think, I don't want to live there. Who would want to live there? And that's the point. It's transitional housing. It is just a place for them to stay until they can get permanent housing, and they can get counseling. They can get other access to services, medical, things like that. They haven't built it yet, but I think it's a very interesting idea, because the transitional housing, the shelters, it's a rough situation before we can get people what we call rapidly rehoused, and I think that has to be part of the solution for it. What's that called? Also, in so far as addressing the problem, like I said, the other than honorable discharges. There is such, you want to talk about stigma. It's not just stigma for these veterans to ask for help. It's stigma, shame, and lifelong guilt for what they did when they were in the military. It's powerful. And if there was one way that we could just encourage these people to seek legal aid, like what Congresswoman Scanlon works on heavily, is if there's just a way that we can get them to seek legal aid for discharge review boards, or trying to get clemency or get their records changed for something that happened decades ago. Someone was smoking marijuana in 1985 in the Army. Now people smoke marijuana with a vape in Target or Walmart. Times have changed. And I think that we have to, as a community, we have to look at that. Also, what's that called? The Veterans Multi-Service Center is a fantastic organization. They are our SSVF provider. And what do you call one person I want to, and they're all great, but I'm going to highlight one person, and that's going to piss off everyone else, but that's okay, is John Unger. John is in the trenches when it comes to this issue, doing homeless outreach with homeless veterans. And the situations are heinous. And I want to share something personal with you. It's not necessarily about John. I mentioned John, and then I got to stop, or people from BMC are going to be emailing me saying, why didn't you mention me? But yesterday was Veterans Day. And what I do is I call people I served with, or I text them and my high-risk clients, and just kind of check on them for Veterans Day. And then a kind of a somber thing that I also do is I also, I go in my contacts and I delete all of the veterans that have died. I do it every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day. I lost 5 people since Memorial Day. And I share some of those people with John. So like I said, he's in the trenches with it. And when I talk about a community response, if there are other providers or people that are willing to help out there, reach out to me, reach out to John, either on an individual level or on a community-based level, and pitch in the way that people pitch in for Habitat for Humanity. The way that you have, a law firm or a tile company, they all go and they volunteer for the day. And, and work on people's houses and have paint fights. I'm sure that never happens. But if I was there, it would definitely happen. But that, I guess that's my call to arms. That's a little bit of thanks. And I hope I'm painting an okay picture for you. And I'll take questions too.
And can I just jump on that? You mentioned that service ratings can be changed and discharges can be changed. We've seen an awful lot of work in that arena in recent years as people who had post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injuries, it was not recognized that that was the source of behavior. So this was disability-related behavior that got people dishonorable discharges, and there's more recognition of that now. And with legal services, National Veterans Legal Services Project and others have worked very hard to try to make sure that people don't have that stigma on their record that then prevents them from getting benefits and moving on productively. So thank you.
Thank you. And I also saw in the chat that Mr. Unger says, thank you for mentioning him in the shout out. He says, you are too kind, Dennis. I think we're coming right up on an hour. If there are any questions amongst the panelists that you want to address, I feel really good about today's conversation. My takeaways are definitely to open my eyes in the community as I drive around to see some things that are right under our nose and people that we can help. I'm charged up and influenced to seek more funding, seek more partnerships, attack more of the very long queue of applications we have for home repairs in our 2 counties from veterans and people that, you know, have been in their houses for a very long time. I think it's worth, this conversation has been worth a lot as we remember and celebrate those that have served this particular weekend. Any closing thoughts? Anybody want to give a closing thought?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Starke, go ahead first.
Go ahead, Toby.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'll try to be brief. I wanted to just pick up and build off of Mr. Miller said in terms of being involved, right? I think there's so many different ways that you can be involved, and not only to volunteer, but sometimes just your words and sharing experiences, whether you know what resources are out there or you know where there's gaps, can actually be incredibly helpful. And I'll just share, as a bank, we have employee resource groups for a lot of different types of groups, including our veterans employee resource group. And whether that's a group that maybe decides to get out and volunteer in the community or share challenges. Just one example is I know earlier in the past that they had helped solve for the bank was the fact that, when reservists were originally deployed, the fact that they may have had guaranteed jobs to come back from, but they might have had a gap in pay between once they left the job and were deployed and when they come back. And that was something that was raised awareness to make sure that the bank is still keeping them at full pay, while they're deployed. So sometimes just making sure that you're part of it, even if it comes from an ally approach, right? Again, I'm part of the Veterans Employee Resource Group because I want to make sure I'm both in touch and can be part of these important dialogues as well. And I also just want to reemphasize aging in place and the opportunity to stay in the home. We're not just looking to habitat ourselves to get somebody into the home. If once you're there for years, someone, you run into challenges, come back to the nonprofits, come back to the programs, because there is so much out there. And again, it's why you need a trusted advisor, because sometimes the VA loan might have been right to get in, but depending on that funding mechanism and the funding fees they charge, or you're using the same product again, you might better qualify for some of these other programs. And even as you move across the country, some of the programs out there will also be income-based. And if you're on a fixed income, right, of what you're now getting based on your VA benefits or Social Security, you may not be considered low to moderate income in one county, but all of a sudden in the next county be considered low to moderate income and then qualify for some of these other grants and programs out there. So stay connected. And I'm sorry, Mr. Starke, one other thing that I wanted to say is, yes, I urge you to, work on if you have or know someone that was anything other than honorably discharged to see if that can be rectified. We know that in the past that has been an issue. I mean, if you go historically after, World War II and where VA programs were out there, but disproportionately was not there for our Black and Brown veterans, disproportionately our Black and Brown veterans had something other than honorably discharged. You want to tackle that issue, but know that there are still programs today, if you needed to buy a house today, that could still really help you out in similar ways that the VA loan does when you work with some of these nonprofits like Habitat to get the coaching and the programs and the products that we offer. So I know a lot packed in there. I just wanted to make sure we got into the timeline. And Mr. Starke, over to you.
Yeah, that is all wonderful information. And Thom, Starke, you had some comments you wanted to make in
I saw one of
closing?
the, I did, I saw one of the comments in the chat. It talks about, community and mental health. And I think a lot of the issues that we find, particularly in the veteran community with homelessness, and a lot of that is associated with the other than honorable type discharges. Mental health is a major issue. And I think nationally and just in society outside the veteran community in general, overall, we're doing a better job of recognizing that, treating that, providing resources for those who need it. But the veteran community, it seems to be a pretty big, one of the major issues for a lot of the issues associated with homelessness and joblessness and all those kinds of things. So, as an organization like Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit, and an organization like Heroic Gardens, where we can help create the environment for veterans and the veteran community and the community at large to provide some relief from particular mental health problems, just by being there is really important. And I think we have to do a better job getting the word out on who we are and what we do, generally speaking, in the community. And I think we have to do that through organizations like, Denis at the county, and even local businesses. I mean, businesses are average people do more shopping at grocery stores and going to their bank and all of these kinds of things. And when was the last time you walked in the bank and saw something on a wall about mental health or veterans homelessness or celebrating the community? And I think we just do a better job with panels like this, where you have some people who have some influence and just say, hey, can I hang this up? Can I do this? Or can we advertise this through our social media? We get the word out, and overall it creates a better message and creates a better opportunity for people in need to find the resources that are available.
Yeah, and I think too, as Congresswoman Scanlon pointed out, she's seeing more of these partnerships between nonprofits, businesses, and our social service and our government agencies in order to combat some of these problems. And I think the jury's out on what we're going to take away from COVID, probably for a few years. But I think one of the biggest takeaways that I believe is one of the largest takeaways is that collaboration and making sure that our services that we're providing in the community are in concert with one another is how and being able to see the program or the problem from 30,000 feet, but then understand what is at the core and start attacking that core. So different nonprofits attack that problem of homelessness or housing insecurity different ways. And the more we communicate with each other, collaborate with each other, and come up with solutions that include our banking partners and empowering volunteers like Mr. Singer, who can make an amazing impact in a family's life that will have a generational impact for that family. That's a very rewarding experience for any volunteer. And Tamara Charles has just taken the little bit that Habitat gave and has grown it and has become a community leader and has taken on the challenges in her community and been a light for more than just her own family at home, but for the people in her community. And I think she's a rock star. So thank you so much, Tamara, for joining us today and taking the time out. And thank you for your service to everyone here. Any final thoughts before we sign on? We're at 1:01 p.m. We did great. Yes, Mr. Miller.
Sorry, I could talk a lot. I'm not a wallflower. John Unger put something in the chat about how we could use veteran-friendly landlords. Sometime right now with the housing market or the rental market being that tens of thousands of people decided to not pay rent over the last year and a half. Delaware County, not to point a finger at them, but why not? Because they're not Montgomery County. But a couple of months ago, they had $70 million in unpaid rent. Oh my goodness. So landlords now are sometimes requesting deposits that are 3-4 months at a time, and they don't have it. And UESF is an organization in Philadelphia. They are an SSVF provider for Philadelphia County, but they work in conjunction with everyone, and they have an interesting concept. They get together, I think, once a quarter with landlords, veteran-friendly landlords, and try to develop relationships with that community. And it's mind blowing because most of the time I hear from veterans or different groups about, we got to get these people housed. We got to get these people housed. And then I went last year or prior to COVID, I went to their landlord outreach event, and there was a whole bunch of landlords, maybe 30 of them, screaming like, hey, I got to get people in these units. If there was just a way to get these people together efficiently, effectively, peacefully, and maybe try to engineer a solution, that would be good. But it's please understand, housing is a small part of what I do for Veteran Affairs of Montgomery County, but I'm offering that to the community. Is that that maybe that's part of that community, whole community solution. But
Yeah.
we could talk all day. Thank you.
We definitely could. That is a wonderful thing for us to noodle through and see if we can bring those parties together. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I wish all of you a blessed Veterans Day weekend. We will be out in force with Heroic Gardens tomorrow in Drexel Hill. If you'd like more information about joining us in our heroic efforts at Pam's house, we'll be making some repairs to a deserving veteran in Drexel Hill. That information is on our website. And I thank everyone for their time today. And this has been a fabulous event for us. So thank you. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Rebecca, for putting this together.
Thanks,
And
guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. This has been
Thank
great.
Have a great
All
weekend.
right. Thank you.
You all.
Bye-bye.